Hello, Simmers. Welcome to a brand new video series about the people who make Flight Simulator a great place to fly. For me, that's the most important thing to be able to know more about the people, their passion, and share it with the community. And for this very first episode, I'm very proud to welcome the CEO of a fairly new company. We will see that with him. Welcome, Tyler. Welcome, Eco19, the company that creates immersive sound design for Flight Simulator. Thank you
Yeah,
so much, Tyler, for accepting my invitation. I feel very privileged to share this moment with you, to dive into the world of sound in immersion. I think that's going to be the key word of this podcast.
immersion. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for so much. This is a really cool opportunity. Happy to be here and be able to talk about sounds and nerd out a little bit with you guys.
Yeah. So, for the first question, in the first place, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to create Eco19? What inspired you to start Eco19 and specialize in capturing airplane engine sound? That's a very specific thing to do, right?
Yeah. So first of all, I my passion for aviation and audio really started when I was little. I remember going to air shows and with my dad, like really young, and
Mm,
every time I went, I would just feel just the raw power of the jets flying over. And I
yeah.
when I loaded up into like for one of the first games that I played when I was able to was a game called Arma, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with that,
Yeah.
but Arma 2 at the time, and there was an F-22 Raptor mod, and I remember loading into that and just like, wow, this is so cool. And then I heard the sounds, and I was like, that does not sound like a modern military fighter. It was like very limited and just did not sound like a jet. So I
Mm,
was like doing research into like mods and trying to figure out like how do I get this to sound better. And so that started over 10 years ago, and like probably closer to 12 or 13 years ago now. And ever
okay.
since then, it kind of kickstarted our journey into creating sound mods for Arma 2 and then Arma 3 and then eventually DCS World. And then that led us to now creating sound packages, for Microsoft Flight Simulator. And so it's been a really cool journey, and I think that the aviation world, like the industry of aviation, is just so unique. It feels like we're all family. Like even sitting here
Mhm.
with Kenobi, like for the first time, I'm like, this is the first time I'm meeting this guy, and it just everybody in the aviation world feels like family, and I think that's why like doing sound design and not only just sound design but immersive sound design really hits home for me because I'm a huge like family guy. I love the feeling that whenever I go out to an airport, I could just meet whoever. And like you have your weirdos like once in a while, your crazy uncle. But for the most part, everybody in the aviation world is super cool, very friendly, and we'll just do anything to help out. And yeah, capturing jet noise is obviously I'm a sound nerd.
Yeah.
But capturing that feeling of just like, wow, like that feeling that I had when I was so young, like, wow, that is so cool. That
Mm.
is what inspires me to continue like pushing the bounds with Echo 19.
Yeah, it's true. It's so Microsoft Flight Simulator really opened, I think, to the mainstream public even more with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. But it still feels like a small community somehow.
Yep, it does. Yeah, we all have these little bubbles.
Yeah,
You have
yeah,
the airline crowd, you have the GA, you have military. It's like it's really
yeah.
cool, but in the end, we're all part of one, you know, bigger bubble and one big community. So it's
Absolutely.
very cool. It's very unique to our
So your
industry.
journey through capturing sound is not new since if you studied like for Alma 2. Um,
Yeah. Yep.
and when did you create Eco 19? Is
Yeah.
Eco
So
19 like new?
yeah, so the company is newer. We I filed the LLC back in 2019. So that's part of where our,
Okay.
Echo 19 comes from. But originally it was founded under Echo 19er. And so it's kind of a little bit of
Mm,
aviation like terminology there.
yeah.
But in the end, we ended up switching up. So no, before or I was doing sound mods under like an unofficial, like Real Sound Studios, you have your little like one-off, you know, kind of fake companies or whatever. And then I really took it, to the next level in 2019 where I was like, I really think this could be a company. Like this could grow into something. And that's
Mm,
when I had the idea to, form the LLC, come up with the name, um, and kind of, work from there to make it a little bit more professional and, industry standard, so to speak.
okay. And what's the first sound package you worked on for Flight Simulator?
Yeah, so it was the Shrike PA-30, the Twin Comanche. That was
Okay.
our very first one. I remember reaching out to Blackbird and Colin. I was like, "Hey, are you guys looking for any, you know, sound work? I'm looking to get into, Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Mm,
I'm a pretty good troubleshooter, like in regards to other areas in life. So, and even DCS, that's how I started doing sound mods. Was literally like figuring stuff out.
okay.
And, Wise is a mystery, even to a lot of people still today. That's part of why we exist, is to remove that mystery for people so they don't have to think about it.
Mm,
But for me at the time, it was still a mystery. And so they took a risk on us and took a risk on me and was like, hey, if you can do this, like, we would love to, we've seen your work, heard it. We'd be more than interested to like take you on. Obviously, like the cost to do that was a little bit lower since it was such a risk for them. Like
mhm,
but yeah, so that was our first project. So we went out, recorded it wasn't a twin Comanche that we recorded, but it was somebody that I knew with a Grumman Tiger, and it had similar engine. I can't remember off the top of my head what the model was, but it was the exact same propeller system, exact same engine, just a little bit different. So I couldn't get my hands out of Twin Comanche at the time, but opted for the Grumman Tiger since it was in town and cheap to
yeah.
record. So,
Okay.
but yeah, that was our first one, and so we're I actually I just shot Colin a message the other day. I said I'd love to redo that for you because I've learned so much in almost the year and a half of doing it. So it still sounds good, but you know it's shown its age a little bit since it's over a year and a half now, and that was
Yeah,
our
and you
our
keep
first one.
improving each time you have a project, I guess.
Yep, exactly. Yep, that's the
Yeah.
goal.
Mm. So that's pretty cool to start to work with Blackbird. That's a fantastic company.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they produce some cool stuff, and then they created like Shrike as kind of like their sister company to
Yeah.
produce not lower quality because it's still really good quality stuff, but
I mean
maybe not
the
as
last one,
detailed.
the
Yeah.
yeah, the last one, the F 86 is incredible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially for what, like $17 or something. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty cheap for.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a
And the
port, but
result is
still
amazing.
beautiful. Yeah, the flight
Yeah.
model is great.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the F-86 was really cool because I got to work with I didn't go record one, but the I partnered with there was an owner in Florida who had just recently restored the F-86 dash 30 model, which is what Shrike built.
Hmm.
And he was like, I have a recorder, like just tell me what you need. So he literally, the owner, recorded all the sounds that I needed, him to record. So yeah,
Very
that
cool.
was it was a pretty cool project to work with. Yeah. Yep.
When I prepared the podcast, I asked you to, and I will put it on screen. If you had a list of all the work you have done so far, and I get to say it's already quite impressive.
Yeah.
Um, you are working right now on a brand new sound pack for the FA-18, the default fighter jet of Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about the pack?
Yeah. Yeah. So the Super Hornet has been my baby for the past I will say a couple months, but it's been longer than that because um man, I feel like I started recording like Super Hornet stuff years ago. Um, But when I first loaded the default, Asobo Super Hornet, I was, you know, like the sounds were okay. Like you got to give credit where credit's due. Like they're not horrible, but to me it just did not sound like a Super Hornet. And so, uh,
Well,
especially the afterburners, I just got to say,
yeah.
afterburners are,
Mm,
they really like quiet, but for the most part, everything in this sim is pretty quiet except for the
yes.
ground vehicles. The ground vehicles are sometimes louder than the airplanes. It's so funny.
Mm,
Yeah, so I actually got to spend some time uh this past year at our air show in Battle Creek, Michigan, the Battle Creek Field of Flight Air Show and Balloon Festival. I've known those guys for a while,
okay.
and the Super Hornet demo team actually gets to choose, I think, one or two shows. I can't remember. I think it's just one, but they get to choose one show that they
Mhm.
want to go to, and our hometown is their pick, which is just so
Wow.
cool. Yeah, they really love performing at Battle Creek. They think that the people are awesome, and I think they're pretty cool myself. But
Mhm.
so I reached out to the event organizers. I've known them for quite a while, but I usually kind of hang out in the civilian hangars. I have my pilot's license in real life, so I have access to the the hangars where the military aircraft usually park for the show. But this time I'm like, man, I'd really love to work on a sound pack for Microsoft Flight Simulator. And so I somehow, was able to get media access this year, just, probably out of circumstance, and maybe my salesmanship is better than I think it is, and trying to sell them the idea that,
Yeah.
I can work on this. But so anyway, long story short, I ended up hanging out with the East Coast Rhino demo team, with a couple of my buddies here in town, and was able to record, pretty much everything on the jet. New APU sounds, got to set up a few different mics around as they were, getting the aircraft set up, started up, and taxi out, coming back in, shut down. Like they were all like really, really helpful and completely like on board with helping us get what we needed. Cause I mean, their plane essentially is going to be the sounds of, Microsoft Flight Simulator's version
Yeah.
of their Super Hornets. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, so that was a super, super cool opportunity getting to hang out with those guys. And um, the goal with the Super Hornet was to not only like improve on the experience, but really set like a new standard for
Mhm.
what I think is like good sound design, especially for military like jets in the sim.
Mhm.
Because like one of the things that a lot of people are missing out on in the flight sim, and this is mostly because of the camera system, are flybys. Like we used to be able to hit like tower view, and you could do flybys like really, really easily.
Mhm.
And it's still obviously it's possible in the new sim. It's just a lot more difficult, so people don't do it as much. And so I feel like a lot of sound designers miss that mark when it comes to that. And when people actually do like navigate, to a remote spot and
Yeah.
simulate air shows, they're all they hear is or like nothing. I'm like, what? And so like Asobo with the Super Hornet, they did include some like distant stuff, but I mean, you've heard the
Yeah,
Super Hornet
so I've
firsthand.
been very privileged to receive your sound pack, and I tested it already, and I made videos of before and after default sound and your sound pack
Nice, yeah.
with cockpit recordings, flybys, doing aerobatics, crazy stuff, and as I told you, once you heard the how good your sound pack is, you cannot go back. It's impossible. It's
Thanks,
just,
yeah.
yeah, no. I mean, when people will hear the difference right from one to another, it's mind blowing, really. And
Yeah,
if
thank
you
you.
go to listen flybys of Super Hornets on YouTube, it's actually very close, very close.
Yep, yeah, and so, it's not perfect because the sim isn't perfect, and,
Mm,
We do try our hardest though, and I feel like from literally the first flyby effect package that we put together was for, I think it was for the Saber, for the F-86 was the first time I started to like seriously like, okay, what do we need to do to get this to work properly? And the Saber has just a couple different variables with the flyby sound, so it's not like as impressive as like the F-35, because the F-35 for India Fox Echo was like the second phase. I was like, okay, now what do we need to do? Like the F-35 has so many different like trigger points, like the Super Hornet, like uh the flyby effects take into account like your afterburner state, how fast you're flying, like everything. It takes
Hmm.
into account pretty much everything. And so it's very complicated. Like it's a very complex system for flight sim that has never been done before. So we're still working through some of the quirks and learning well, what's possible, and like some of the issues that we're still kind of facing, but are really minor at this point. And as we continue growing with Wise and getting into Flight Sim 24, it's just going to keep getting better and more smooth. So,
Hmm. Yeah,
but
the F-35, it's night and day difference between the start and now the latest version. It's yeah, it's very good.
yeah, thank you. Yeah. So
So yeah,
no, go ahead.
so you're starting to speak about the technical aspect, and that was my next question. Can you walk us through the process of capturing these sounds, because that's massive sounds, jet engines. That's crazy.
Mhm.
What kind of equipment technique do you use to ensure the authenticity of the sound?
Yeah, so we use nothing but the best microphones, recorders, and that really does go a long way. Like you can record sounds off of your iPhone or Android, like whatever you have in your pocket. And
Mm,
sometimes that's what you got to use. You got to use what's in your pocket. But for intentional sound packs like this, like we recorded the Super Hornet at, well, some of the sounds were at up to 192, like 192 kilohertz, which is an
wow.
insanely high sample rate, and is pretty much indistinguishable between 96K. But we always want to strive for the very best, and I want the most amount of flexibility when I'm dealing with like, or when I'm editing the sounds. And so we
Hmm.
always try to go for top of the line sample rate, microphones, recorders, and to be able to capture the high noise levels of a jet engine, you really do need to pay close attention to what microphones you're using, because the same microphone you would use for, like, for example, like the Twin Comanche or the Grumman Tiger is what I recorded, is are not the same microphones that I use to record the Super Hornet. They're very different,
Hmm.
and because they're rated for different sound levels, they're rated for different frequencies. Like the microphones on the Grumman Tiger are better at picking up like more of the prop sounds and more of like the wispiness, versus the Super Hornet. Some of the microphones that I use are really good at like capturing the deep bassy rumble of the afterburner.
Yeah,
Um,
the roar.
yeah, the roar. Yep, exactly. And well, it's also the same for the high pitched squealing, like the very
Yeah.
signature sound that the
Mm,
F-35 has. It's what makes the F-35 or the Super Hornet sound different. It's the sound of the how the air rushes into the intake, or how it's like interacts with the air around it,
mm,
and also the unique sound signature of the specific model of turbine. Those are the little details that will really sell somebody that, like, oh, yeah, I was just at an air show. This sounds exactly like an F-35, or this sounds exactly like the Super Hornet, because
mm.
we there's like a whole, I could spend a whole episode just talking about how we edit these things, but I'm not going to do that to you. Um, but it's very meticulous, and but the end result speaks
So
for itself.
I guess you spoke about the quality of the hardware you are using, but I guess everything comes into play when you have to choose the perfect place to put your mic, right?
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Not too close, not too far.
Yeah, because I mean, with the Super Hornet, those things get very loud, or the
Yeah.
C-17 because we also I recorded the C-17 audio,
Hmm.
and those engines are absurdly loud, and I am very thankful that our microphones could handle that level of
Yeah.
sound because I was wearing ear protection. I mean, you've probably
Yeah.
seen a couple of the pictures, but I was wearing
Hmm.
hearing protection, and it was still like, wow, this is loud. And I was looking at my microphone or my recorders, and I'm like, that is like near the top. Like that is the top limit of where those things could go. So in order to do that, you have to pull the microphones back. But even the only unfortunate side to that is if you pull them too far back, you lose some of the signature like quality of the engines.
Okay.
Um, but there are ways around that. So typically, when we're setting up for an engine run, I bring the mics super close. So startup sounds are uninterrupted and they sound like really crisp and clean. Sometimes it's not possible. So, like for instance, the C-17, the Air Force guys wanted us to pull back a little. And so we
Okay.
had to compensate for that in post, which makes my
Hmm.
life harder because there's like GPU sounds and like other variables at play that were,
Yeah.
making noise. And so for things like that, it's we have to start close and then work our way back so we don't overload our equipment because we
Okay.
microphones do have like I think most of the microphones I have are rated for the ones I use on jets anyways are up to 130 decibels before they start to clip or you could damage them. Which
130.
130, yep. So that's
That's
very loud.
yeah. That's the yeah, yeah.
Yep, that's very, very, very loud. Um, but outside of that, you start to get distortion, and in some
Mm.
cases, like the fast flyby sounds on the Super Hornet, in some cases, the distortion works. But when you're trying to get like a really nice rumbly afterburner, like for instance on the Super Hornet, like you want it to be as clean and crisp as possible. And so, yeah, being able to pull the mics back a little bit in the right spots is very helpful.
Yeah.
And that comes with experimentation. Like I've been doing this for several years,
Yeah,
and
that's exactly what I was going to say. I guess you learn this from experience, right?
yep, yeah, pretty much. I've read a lot of articles too. I know when
Mm.
Flight Sim first came out, there was quite a few articles written, or there was one specifically, like microphone placement, how they recorded all the sounds for the airplanes in Flight Sim. So that was a pretty cool read. I learned some stuff there, but yeah, for the most part, it's just experimentation and like I have this shotgun mic that I use a lot for pretty much everything. It's one of those mics I can use for pretty much everything because I can point at things, and I will literally just go around and listen and like try to listen for the sound that I want. You know,
Mm.
so for instance, like on a propeller driven plane, that might take me walking around while the engine is at max RPM to try to get the right angle to get the right propeller sound. It's
Mm.
a lot of experimentation for sure.
When you have your recordings, that's already a big part. But then there is also, I guess, you need to ensure that you manage. How do you manage to translate this raw engine recordings into something that works into the simulation that is very specific, that has limitation? Is
Mhm.
there like a big gap between how does it work actually?
Yeah, so there's a couple different methods that we
In simple
use.
words.
Yeah, there's a couple different methods. So one of the methods we use is actually extracting the noteworthy frequencies of the engine. So if you look at like a spectrograph, which is basically a way to visualize sound, right? And if you look at a spectrograph, you can see where the prominent frequencies live, and you can actually pull those out of the sound and then use them in Wise, for example, which is the software that Flight Sim uses, and you can pitch curve that to match what the real engine sounds like. Now, you can't do that with a piston aircraft. That's only useful for turbine driven things, and it's only useful in certain situations. Otherwise, we have to edit the sounds in a way that, you know, cleans them up but doesn't remove their like signature sound, so to speak.
Yeah,
So we
their
put
identity.
yep, exactly, yep, and then
Mm.
after that, we put them all into Wise, and, there's a whole process to getting them to blend, like, perfectly, and it takes sometimes it can take a long time to get just right, and,
Fair
you
enough.
yep, you go back and, like, I've for example, the Super Hornet, I feel like I've done 2 or 3 times now, like, just the raw front turbine sounds I've redone maybe 2 or 3 times before sending you the version that we settled on. So, yeah, pretty
Mm.
pretty time consuming, but it's a
Yeah.
it's a fun process for sure.
We are talking about mainly you record jet engine sound, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, we record pretty much anything, like, are you asking, like, everything that I've recorded or
No, I mean because jet engine sounds are, I mean jet engines are extremely loud, like you said, and everybody knows that and very powerful. Is there something that maybe that some people that are not used to the planes in real life don't realize easily in the sim? But is there something when you go recording jet like this that you is there like safety measures for you and your team and the equipment?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. So when we're setting stuff up, there's quite a bit involved. So first of all, I usually have a safety briefing with the pilot or
Mhm,
maintenance guy, whoever is helping us with the sounds. We go over a safety briefing that I usually put together, and then I send their team in advance. So I'll use a C-17 for an example.
yeah.
I compiled a list of sounds that I wanted to record, not just engine sounds, but everything that I wanted to record,
Mhm,
and laid out a map. I put like a drawing of the C-17 on a piece of paper,
mhm,
in like Google Docs or something, and then I put all my microphones around it, and then I sent that to our public relations officer, and basically was like, this is what we're thinking about doing. Let me know if the safety team has any concerns." And so when I get there, or to wherever we're recording, I have the same information available, and
mhm.
we talk about, okay, this is what the plan is. This is what startup looks like. This is where the microphones are going to sit. Are there any objections to where they're going to sit? Because in the end, the pilot and the crew know more about the airplane than I do. Like, I could think that a location is super safe, but in reality, it's like, oh, that microphone should actually be 30 feet this way, otherwise it's going to get blown over or get sent to a different state,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so, yeah. And, we also use sandbags to make sure that the microphones stay put.
Okay.
Um, we hearing protection, for the most part. Eye protection isn't. I wear sunglasses, so I know that's not like impact rated, but for the most part, unless you're operating closely, which would be dangerously close to like propellers, usually you don't
Yeah.
need to wear eye protection. It's usually just need to protect your ears. Um, and then, yeah, we're always like part of the safety briefing is making sure that we're always like within eye contact, or if we're outside of eye contact, that somebody else knows
Mhm.
where the like, for example, we recorded a Bell 407 just a few weeks ago,
Okay.
and there was a time where I needed to go check on the microphone that was capturing the tail rotor. But that was on the back left side of the helicopter, which was really difficult for the pilot to see because he was in the front right seat and he had a blind spot. But I had somebody else helping me, and he was able to relay like my information.
Mm.
Um, just I'm all about safety. I'm all for getting good sounds, but I always tell the crew and the pilots, like, I first and foremost want to keep everybody safe, but also the aircraft safe. And I don't want to do anything that will jeopardize, myself, my equipment, but also the, I guess, the aircraft, um, and the safety of the personnel. That's always my top priority. So that's something that I've learned. That is not
Yeah,
something I had to think about originally, but I
yeah.
also have, a part of my experience is I was a line service rep for a company here in town, Duncan Aviation. So they deal with a lot of like maintenance, repair, overhaul for business jets and some
Okay.
GA airplanes.
Hmm.
Um, but my job was to basically refuel and tow aircraft around, and yeah, I also trained a lot of the guys, so I was already very familiar with like
Aware of
respecting
the,
the
yeah.
airplane
Mm.
and knowing the danger zones, right?
Yeah.
And but we would always repeat that because part of my job at Duncan was to go over those safety measures whenever we were around like operating aircraft. So yeah, safety is no joke. Like it can, especially around aircraft, they can kill you very, very easily. So you have
Exactly,
to
and
respect them. Yep.
that's why I wanted to ask you this question, because maybe people don't realize how dangerous it can be,
Oh yeah,
how
absolutely.
powerful it is, and it's all beautiful in the sim, but in real life, it's
They
completely
can be a little
different, right?
scary. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I so going back to the Bell 407 recording, I had the opportunity. It was super cool, but I asked the pilot before. I was like, "Can I go up?" Because it was in order to get in and out of the hangar, they have to put it on this. It's like a cart basically. It has wheels. They could tow it in and out of their hangar. I forget what it's technically called, so I'm sorry. I'm probably butchering it. Um, but to do the engine run, like when they spun the rotors up all the way, um, it was still sitting on this cart. And so I asked the pilot, like, can I come up here for this second run to capture like the sound of the rotor, the disc plates and stuff moving? He was like, yeah, absolutely. It's safe. You just have to stay where I can see you and, you know, just plant your feet because it's going to get pretty windy. And so it was unreal. I mean, it was such a cool experience, but in the moment, like I was like kind of hugging the helicopter because the blades were moving so fast right above me, like I was outside. And I just remember like I had a smile on my face, but I was in on the inside. I was like, oh my god, I can't wait for this to be done. Because I mean, it was just so loud and so windy. I mean, it was really cool though. It was like both a really cool experience and a terrifying experience at the same time. Just
At the
because
same time, yeah.
I knew that if I made a wrong move, that I would be, a human smoothie sitting on
Yeah.
the apron. And so
Mhm.
you definitely have to respect the aircraft. And I knew that I was safe because the rotors don't droop until you're like pretty far away from the helicopter, but that's not what you're thinking when you're standing right below something like
Yeah.
that. So,
So that's fun that you mentioned this, and because I was about to ask you, what are some of the most exciting or challenging things you have recorded so far?
yeah, so I definitely think that one of the most exciting ones was the C-17. Uh,
Really? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there are things I can't technically talk about because NDA,
No.
but
Yeah.
uh,
So just
but
to be a
it's
bit
really
of
fun.
just
Yeah.
to give a bit of context, because it has been announced now,
Mhm.
the C-17 is Globemaster is coming from Miltech,
Yep, yep,
and in the premium deluxe package of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, right?
yep. Yes, sir. Yep.
So,
Yep. It's a very cool airplane.
mhm,
The Miltech team, and obviously we've spent a ton of time working on the sounds. I'm wearing our shirt that'll be for sale soon. I'll probably get up and show you the back before the video's done, but
yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's a really cool airplane. They put a lot of heart and soul into developing the Glowmaster. I know some third party companies have a bad rep, but you know, for a
well,
Microsoft plane, this is definitely
Definitely not
up there.
Miltech. They are one of the
No.
best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they took that very seriously. So just some of the things I've seen in the past couple of days that are are still being worked on
Hmm.
are absolutely incredible, mind blowing. We really can't wait for everybody to get their hands on
Jesus.
it.
You
Yeah.
got us excited.
Yeah, man. That's what it's all about. It's the passion, you know. That's
Yeah.
why I'm here. But yeah. So the C-17 was definitely one of the coolest. It's huge. I mean, just the fact that like I was just thinking about this today because I was doing another video and was going over some of the details of the C-17 and like the team that was there to help me literally was like, "Yeah, we're here for you, dude. Like, here I have this giant airplane. It's pretty much all to myself all day." And they're like, "Whatever switches you want to flip." Obviously, there's a couple you can't flip, like the fire handles and like
Mm,
whatever. But for the most part, flipped every single switch, not every single breaker because that would have taken way too long. But we push pulled some breakers and then all the switches, levers, knobs, got like the sound of all the avionics equipment in the different spots. So if you walk around the cockpit, you can hear certain things humming and
yeah.
whirring. And when you
Okay.
flip the emergency transfer power for the first time, like when you're booting up the airplane,
Okay. Yeah.
you can hear everything come on, and you're like,
Yeah. Coming
you can
alive.
feel it. I mean,
Oh,
yeah, you can,
that's so
yeah.
cool.
I
Yeah.
mean, everything's in 3D space too, so definitely make sure you're either wearing headphones and you turn on the spatial audio feature for sure. Because
Okay.
I spent quite a bit of time making sure that things are like placed very precisely. So
That's interesting to know. Yeah.
yep. And so one other noteworthy thing I want to give credit where credit is due. So Boris actually helped us with the engine sounds because I'm a huge fan of Boris's. I really love the collaborative effort that we've shared. Like
Mhm.
he's technically competition to me, but in reality, it's like we're all working with the same
Yeah,
sim.
so Boris is making sound packs, I think he made one for the Cessna,
Mhm.
172 and 152.
Yeah, so he has one for the CRJ as well, and then he's also been
Okay,
working with, so he's working on a few first party planes. I can't remember off the top of my head. I know he's working on the 757 with Bluebird. He's working
okay.
on a 737 Max with iFly, I think, and I can't remember all of
Oh,
them.
yeah. Mm,
You'd want to ask him, but anyway, he really passionate. He's in school for airline training right now, which is pretty public knowledge, so I can say that
oh,
it's fine.
okay.
But yeah, working with Boris has been awesome, very cool, very talented, and I really just wanted this C-17 to like uh, be not only a passion project for myself and my team, but
Mhm,
also share that experience. Like
mhm.
I know I would have killed for an opportunity to help. Like if another competitor to me was like, "Hey, do you want to help with this?" I would have been like, duh. It's like sign me up, you know. And I know that Boris is very passionate about, our hobby and the flight simulation community and also aviation in general. So I extended the invite to him just to help share the experience. I could have done everything myself. It's not that I couldn't, it's that I wanted to share the experience. I wanted to share
That's
the
cool. Yeah.
the airplane, really.
That's
I just
linked to this, sense of, family you were talking in the introduction.
Yeah, yep, exactly. Yep,
That's very cool.
yep.
That's all I like about this. So, you are going to speak a bit about your speaking for your church. I don't know if it's an expression in English, but as for aviation enthusiasts who spend hours in flight simulator, how important do you think sound is for creating a realistic experience?
Not important
Personally,
at all. Nope.
yeah.
No.
Personally, I think graphics and sound are equal. It's as important. Both are complementary for me, and it's I'm giving sound really a great deal.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, honestly. The the only thing for me because I've played games with bad sound, but, like, really good graphics, and I'm, like, not bothered by it. But other times I played games with really good graphics and really bad sounds, and I've been like, well, man, I wish this had a better like sound system, or it was lacking. Like not even flight sim, like it could be other things like Call of Duty or Battlefield or something. Like I remember Battlefield 3, like I was just completely blown away. Like I don't know if you play FPS games at all, but
Yeah, yeah,
Battle
sure.
okay, yeah, Battlefield 3 was like one of the reasons why I got into PC gaming. I built my first PC just to play Battlefield 3, and
Mm,
I was blown away by the sound design. I remember just every
yeah,
gunshot you could hear in the distance was
yeah.
somebody else firing
Mm.
their gun, and like the jet flybys. I'm like, I
The
you could
sense of the battlefield they gave you.
exactly, yeah, the
Yeah,
immersion. And
yeah.
so that's why I was just like I was just so blown away by it. And even to this day it holds up. Battlefield 3 and 4 are pretty close tie for me in regards to sounds. Just the impact that the immersion has. And so I will also argue that you can have um, well, I've made this argument before. You can have especially when it comes to like video productions or like videos in general, especially YouTube videos, you can have
Mm,
really good quality video with awesome lighting and like really cool graphics and lower thirds and all this cool extra stuff and really high resolution video like quality, and then use a blown out microphone or use the microphone that's built into like this camera. It's like they've
mhm.
gotten better, but now everything sounds like you're in an echo chamber and you're not immersing your audience. You're leaving them out of a key fundamental aspect. And so that will hurt your video production. It will hurt the production that you're working on. And you might not notice it right away, but as soon as you make that switch to a dedicated like audio system, like microphone in this example, it's night and day. And like you said earlier, like about our Super Hornet, you can't go back. And
Oh,
that's the difference between, you know, people, you don't know what you have until it's gone, or you don't know what like you're missing out on until you get like an
you
upgrade
yeah,
essentially. And you know,
yeah.
you don't know what you don't know, which is fine. And it's part of learning.
Mm,
But that's why I'm such a stickler for sound design, and not just flight simulators, but everywhere. Even music, like I've produced music before. I don't play anything. I play the soundboard, is what I like to say. But I've mixed live bands. I've mixed like for like studio recordings and stuff, and I I will notice when a mix is too harsh or the vocals are imbalanced because it takes me out of the experience. And as a sound designer, and especially one for aviation, my job is to like put people in the pilot seat and by whatever means. And so like I said towards the beginning, like our stuff is not perfect, but man, we're getting closer and closer each day, and that's all I can ask myself and
mhm.
my team, is that we're growing. So sound is very, very important to me personally. But yeah, especially with graphics too. It's like if you're gonna have eye candy, you gotta have ear candy. Like
Yeah.
they
I mean,
gotta they go together, you know, it's
it's
like
like a
bread and
movie.
butter.
It's like a movie, you know. Both are completely linked. You know, you cannot have one and not the other. And
Mhm.
I'm going to use again the. I mean, to give you credits about this F18 sound pack. It's you just close your eyes and you can hear the wind on the left wing of the plane. You can hear if you pull high G's, you can hear the cockpit, all the small sounds everywhere. And you do this with the basic default plane, with not without your the Eco 19 sound pack. That's a free advertisement. and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
uh,
right.
and you close your eyes and you say, "Oh yeah, it's good. Yeah, I'm in a fighter jet." But with the sound pack, I mean, you really feel you are in the fighter jet. It changed everything.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And I've never been inside a Super Hornet while it's flying, but
Me, me neither. Me neither. But that's how you picture it,
yep.
and yeah, and it's just amazing because that's why we are using Flight Simulator, right? Because we
We
want
want to.
to, yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
that's how we can live this dream with this screen and the whole simulation.
Yeah,
And
it's much
sound,
cheaper to get a Super Hornet in your
yeah,
flight simulator
also, yeah, that's
than
for
in
sure.
real life. Yeah.
Yeah, 10 minutes in a Super Hornet. Yeah, okay.
Yep, exactly. Yep. It's on my bucket list,
um,
so we'll see about that. Maybe
okay,
someday.
I'm sure you will do a video.
Yeah, yeah, you better believe it. Super Hornet Sound Pack version 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So about we covered quite a lot of topic already. So let's focus maybe on the future. Is there any specific jet fighters or aircraft that you want to record but haven't been able yet? Any dream project you have? You spoke about the C-17. Is there like an another massive plane for you?
The C5.
C5?
Yeah, the
Oh,
C5
it's a
Galaxy.
beast.
She's huge, but she's
Yeah.
beautiful. I've been up close to one
Is
a
there
couple
one
different times.
coming? No?
I don't think so. Not
Okay.
yet anyway. Not that I know of. And yeah, that would be really cool. The whole nose pops open and everything. I would just be such a
Yeah.
I would just be like in awe the entire time. Like I was already pretty awestruck with the C-17, but
Mhm.
man, the C5 is also like the engines are so unique. Like the C-17, I feel like has like some really cool sounding engines, but they sound almost I mean they're just Pratt and Whitney 2000s I think or 17 I can't remember off the top of my head the civilian version of them, but they're airliner engines that are beefed up basically for like cargo ops. And so they sound pretty generic as far as, engines are concerned, but the C5 has like one of the most interesting sounding engines I've ever heard. And I think that would be really, really cool to record.
Mm.
Have the opportunity to do that. And also because it's massive. And I would love to put my
Yeah.
name on that project. Yep. Or
Okay.
the I know it's no longer with us, but the 225 um Mira. I can't remember how to say it, but I would also that would be super cool if they ever bring that back to
5 mirror.
yeah, it's like the one of the biggest cargo planes ever built by Antonov.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one that got bombed to smithereens, unfortunately.
Yeah. Mm.
So yeah, I mean those are really big airplanes. I think on the smaller side, we're hopefully going to be working on the F-16 with India Fox Deco on their F-16.
Okay.
In the event that they do not hire us to do like an exclusive sound pack, we'll probably still end up doing a F-16. And I have some contacts with our military that would uh, help us get access to one. Fingers crossed. It's a little bit easier to uh, go through a project when there's an aircraft like directly involved versus just a third party sound pack. Otherwise, I would have to go to like air shows and like weasel my way in, like I did with the Super Hornet, to
Mhm.
capture that stuff. But I've already got quite a bit of sounds from the F-16. I just think it would be cool to hang out with the maintenance crew for the Viper and be able to hand the pilot a recorder and say, "Hey, just run the engines and do this and hold this recorder." Yeah, I think those are my top three right now. I probably have I'm a huge obviously aviation nerd, so I'm sure I have a lot of other airplanes I'd love to record, but
Yeah.
those are oh P-51. I think the P-51 would be super cool to record.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we partner with some
Have
production companies to do like they have like sound packs, like they're pretty pricey, like they're very expensive.
okay.
Um, but we've worked with them before and they've had some pre-existing P-51 stuff for like the DCS mods that we did. But I
Mhm.
would love the opportunity to actually record one myself and maybe go up in the Delta version, which I think is the two-seater. Uh, I'm not 100% certain. I've not done a ton of like Mustang research, but I
Yeah.
know that would also be definitely one of them. I think that'd be super cool.
Okay. So you are working a lot. You are going to release a sound pack for the FA18, working for the C17. I don't know if the work is done. It's under
Almost,
NDA on this
almost.
plane, I think.
Well, it's gonna
And
come out in a month, so
yeah,
it's got to be
yeah,
almost done.
yeah, true. Um, is there a new project that you can start talking about in the future, or some stuff you want to do
Yeah.
outside
So
of what you just said, like the F16?
yeah. So I mean, we're also working on the Super Patriot Mark II with Parallel 42. So
Okay.
we went out to Bentonville, Arkansas, here in the
Hmm.
states, and worked with the manufacturer directly. Super cool guys,
Nice.
and yeah, I spent a couple days out there just recording and interacting with the plane. I actually got to go for a flight
Oh,
in the
that's
Patriot.
cool.
Yeah, yep. And it's a two-seater. It's like it's not tandem, but you
Yeah.
sit front and back. And
Hmm.
there's a separate control stick back there, separate rudder and throttle, like just basic throttle control.
Yeah.
Um, it's pretty cool. But the owner was like, "Hey, do you want some stick time?" I'm like, "Sure." So we're flying through this like super cool backcountry area in Arkansas with like rock cliffs, and we were on this river. And I mean, we were booking it. We were going pretty quick. That thing can fly. And that was probably we were talking about cool experiences. That was
Yeah.
probably the second place for me would be that one because
Okay.
man, I just the being able to hook all my like microphones and stuff up to that and like actually get to fly it. I'm like,
Hmm.
that's cool because now I actually know like the experience that I had while flying it is what I'm gonna try to translate um, with
Yeah,
my
in the
sound
sim.
design. Yeah, in the sim. And the Parallel 42 guys are gonna knock it out of the park with all the details and modeling and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not a complex plane, like it's not got a ton of avionics stuff. It's
Hmm.
pretty, you just jump in and go for the most part, but um, there's a lot of fine detail that they're gonna put into it, and it's gonna look really good, especially in Flight Sim 24 with the big emphasis on like world detail
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So that's one that I'm
It's
really
going to be
looking forward
perfect.
to.
Okay.
And we're also working on some other stuff with Aeroplane Heaven, like the Lancaster, and not that
Oh,
there's any new information about when that's getting released. We are
yeah.
working with them on that one.
That's
So
pretty cool.
yeah, there's let me see real quick. I feel like there's
There's
so
so
many.
many stuff going on.
This is a good problem that I can't remember them all, but this
Yeah.
is why we keep track.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so as you know, for Miltech alone, they've got us for the U2, the spy plane.
Oh, yeah. I can't
Um,
wait for this plane.
yeah, that'll be sweet.
It's going
And
to
then
be so unique.
yeah, yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're doing that one and a bunch of other airplanes that they haven't announced yet. So
Okay.
we're
Hmm.
going to be working with them
Strong
quite
partnership
extensively.
with Miltech.
Yep, yep. So they're one of our like good clients, I guess you'll say, that have
Yeah.
hired us for pretty much all of their aircraft in the foreseeable future. And then
That's very cool to know.
Top Mock Studios,
Yeah.
the F-22 Raptors got an audio overhaul that we're just wrapping up with. We just got some like really minor things left to do.
Hmm.
And then also we're doing their T7 Red Hawk, their
Yeah.
SU-30, and their YF-23, which is going to use pretty much the same sound package as the Raptor because it's got the same engines. It's
Mm.
essentially the same plane, just a little bit of a different shape.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that, and then the C-130 Echo and Hotel by Captain Sim, and that's not
Okay.
widely known yet, but they did make a Facebook page and they name dropped us in their forum post. We're just not making it a big deal yet because we're still pretty early in the design phase of it.
Okay.
So yeah, quite a bit, and
That's a good effort. That's a
that's
good effort from them.
Microsoft, and that's just the stuff I can talk about for
Yeah.
flights.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, and we've got more stuff for DCS like the Kiowa the OH-58 Delta, which was the Bell 407 recording. It's the same engine, rotor, tail rotor.
Okay.
It's the same helicopter, essentially, just military version for DCS.
Mhm.
So that one we're almost done with. And then I'm going out to Madras, which is just a couple hours away from Portland, Oregon, to record a Skyraider, which is like
Okay.
a World War II plane. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's already an hour we spent together.
Man,
Tyler.
time flies.
Yeah, time flies when we are in good company. So
Yep.
thank you very much for this, all those details about sounds and how important it is for immersion and flight simulator. I personally think you are doing a great work, and thank you very much for your efforts. And keep going, keep improving, and it's going to be amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's cool just to talk about our mission and
Yeah.
kind of like where I see like Echo going in the future. And yeah, certainly lucky to be doing this full time and
Mhm.
just doing sounds for airplanes, man. I mean, it's what a dream job, you know.
Yeah.
Not everybody is that lucky, so I definitely count my blessings on this one. So yeah, thank you so much for having me and letting me talk about what I do. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Tyler, and see you soon. Bye bye, guys. Thanks for watching. And if you liked this podcast, there is some more on the channel. Bye bye.